Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of our whispered journey through history. Today, we delve into the fascinating and tumultuous era of the Crusades, a series of religious wars that profoundly shaped the medieval world and left a lasting legacy on both European and Middle Eastern history. The Crusades were a series of military campaigns sanctioned by the Latin Church during the medieval period, primarily aimed at reclaiming Jerusalem and other holy sites in the Near East from Muslim control. These wars, which took place between the 11th and 13th centuries, were marked by fervent religious zeal, brutal conflict, and significant cultural exchange. The First Crusade began in 1095 when Pope Urban II called upon the Christian faithful to take up arms and embark on a holy pilgrimage to reclaim Jerusalem. His call to arms, delivered at the Council of Clermont in France, was driven by a mix of religious fervor and political motivations. Urban sought to unite the fractious Christian states of Europe under a common cause and to extend the influence of the papacy. His speech stirred the hearts of thousands who shouted Deus Vult, God wills it, and vowed to take part in the holy war. The response to Urban's call was overwhelming. Nobles, knights, and commoners alike took up the cross and set out on the arduous journey to the Holy Land. The First Crusade was characterized by a lack of centralized command and logistical challenges, but the sheer determination of the Crusaders ultimately led to the successful capture of Jerusalem in 1099. The siege of Jerusalem was brutal, with Crusaders breaching the city walls and engaging in widespread slaughter. The fall of Jerusalem was a monumental event, solidifying the Crusaders' belief in their divine mission and establishing a series of Crusader states in the Levant. The success of the First Crusade inspired subsequent campaigns, but it also set the stage for continued conflict. The establishment of the Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, created a lasting Christian presence in the Holy Land, but these territories were surrounded by Muslim states that sought to reclaim their lands. The ensuing centuries were marked by a series of crusades and counter-crusades, as both sides vied for control of the region. The Second Crusade, launched in 1147, was a response to the fall of the County of Edessa, one of the Crusader states, to Muslim forces. Led by King Louis VII of France and Emperor Conrad III of Germany, the Crusaders faced significant challenges and ultimately failed to achieve their objectives. The Second Crusade ended in disarray, highlighting the difficulties of maintaining a unified and effective military campaign in the distant and hostile environment of the Near East. One of the most renowned figures of the Crusades emerged during the Third Crusade, which began in 1189. Saladin, the Muslim Sultan of Egypt and Syria, had recaptured Jerusalem in 1187, prompting a call to arms from the Christian world. The Third Crusade saw the involvement of some of Europe's most powerful monarchs, including Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Frederick I Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire. Despite achieving several military victories, the Crusaders were ultimately unable to recapture Jerusalem. The Third Crusade ended with a negotiated settlement between Richard the Lionheart and Saladin, allowing Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem while leaving the city under Muslim control. The Fourth Crusade, launched in 1202, took a dramatically different course. Originally intended to conquer Muslim-controlled Jerusalem through an invasion of Egypt, the Crusaders were diverted by Venetian interests to the Christian city of Constantinople. In 1204, the Crusaders sacked Constantinople, looting its treasures and causing immense destruction. This event deepened the schism between the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches and weakened the Byzantine Empire, which never fully recovered from the assault. The later Crusades, including the 5th, 6th, 7th, and beyond, were characterized by diminishing returns and a growing sense of futility. While some campaigns achieved temporary successes, none were able to establish lasting Christian control over Jerusalem. The motivations behind the Crusades evolved over time, encompassing not only religious zeal but also political ambition, economic gain, and personal glory. The impact of the Crusades was far-reaching and multifaceted. On the one hand, they facilitated cultural and technological exchanges between the Christian and Muslim worlds. Crusaders brought back knowledge of medicine, mathematics, and philosophy from the Islamic world, which contributed to the intellectual revival of the European Renaissance. The Crusades also stimulated trade and the growth of cities, as merchants and adventurers sought to capitalize on the new connections between East and West. On the other hand, the Crusades were marked by significant violence and atrocities. The Crusaders' zeal often led to the persecution and massacre of Jews, Muslims, and even fellow Christians who were deemed heretical or insufficiently devout. The legacy of the Crusades includes deep-seated animosities and historical grievances that continue to influence relations between the Christian and Muslim worlds. The Crusades also had profound effects on the political landscape of Europe. The mobilization of large armies required extensive resources and coordination, leading to the centralization of power in the hands of monarchs and the Church. The experience of crusading fostered a sense of shared identity and purpose among the European nobility, contributing to the development of a more cohesive European identity. As we conclude this first part of our exploration of the Crusades, we see how these holy wars were driven by a complex interplay of religious fervor, political ambition, and personal motivations. The Crusades were not a monolithic series of events, but a dynamic and evolving conflict that shaped the course of medieval history. In the next part, we will delve deeper into the key figures and pivotal moments that define this era. As we continue our exploration of the Crusades, let's delve into the key figures and pivotal moments that define this era of intense religious fervor and military conflict. One of the most influential figures in the history of the Crusades was Saladin, the Muslim Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Born in 1137 in Tikrit, Saladin rose to prominence through his military prowess and strategic acumen. By 1186, he had united the Muslim territories of Egypt and Syria, creating a powerful state capable of challenging the Christian Crusaders. Saladin's greatest victory came in 1187 at the Battle of Hattin, where he decisively defeated the Crusader forces and subsequently recaptured Jerusalem. This victory not only restored Muslim control over the Holy City but also solidified Saladin's reputation as a chivalrous and honorable leader, respected by both his allies and adversaries. Saladin's capture of Jerusalem prompted the launch of the Third Crusade, one of the most famous and extensively chronicled of the Crusading Campaigns. Among the key leaders of this crusade was Richard the Lionheart, the King of England. Richard's military leadership and valor were instrumental in achieving several significant victories against Saladin's forces, including the capture of the city of Acre and the decisive Battle of Arsuf. Despite their fierce rivalry, Richard and Saladin developed a mutual respect, engaging in negotiations that ultimately led to a truce allowing Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem while it remained under Muslim control. The Third Crusade also featured other notable figures, such as Philip II of France and Frederick I Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire. Frederick's involvement in the crusade ended tragically when he drowned while crossing a river in Asia Minor, a blow to the morale and strength of the Crusader forces. Philip II, after capturing Acre, returned to France, leaving Richard to continue the campaign with limited support. The cooperation and competition among these powerful monarchs illustrated the complex interplay of political and personal motivations driving the Crusades. The Fourth Crusade, launched in 1202, took an unexpected and controversial turn when the Crusaders, diverted by Venetian interests, attacked and sacked the Christian city of Constantinople in 1204. This event, known as the Sack of Constantinople, had far-reaching consequences for the Byzantine Empire and the wider Christian world. The looting and destruction inflicted by the Crusaders weakened the Byzantine Empire, contributing to its eventual decline and fall to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. The Fourth Crusade deepened the schism between the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, a rift that persists to this day. Pope Innocent III, one of the most powerful and influential popes of the medieval period, played a significant role in the later Crusades. His papacy saw the launch of the Fourth Crusade and subsequent campaigns aimed at reclaiming the Holy Land and combating heresy within Christendom. Innocent's efforts to organize and finance the Crusades underscored the central role of the papacy in promoting and sustaining the crusading movement. Despite the mixed outcomes of these later Crusades, Innocent's legacy includes the strengthening of papal authority and the expansion of the Church's influence in medieval Europe. The Albigensian Crusade, initiated by Pope Innocent III in 1209, was directed against the Cathar heretics in southern France. This crusade exemplified the use of crusading rhetoric and methods to combat internal threats to the Church's authority. The Albigensian Crusade was marked by brutal campaigns of suppression, resulting in the near eradication of the Cathar movement and the consolidation of the French crown's control over the region. The Children's Crusade of 1212 is a poignant and tragic episode in the history of the Crusades. Inspired by a vision of reclaiming Jerusalem through the innocence and faith of children, thousands of young people set out on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Lacking proper organization and support, many of these children perished from hunger, disease, and exploitation, with few ever reaching their destination. The Children's Crusade highlighted the deep religious fervor and desperation that characterized the later stages of the crusading movement. The Crusades also had a profound impact on the Jewish communities of Europe and the Middle East. Crusaders often targeted Jewish populations, resulting in massacres and forced conversions. The First Crusade, in particular, saw widespread violence against Jews in the Rhineland, where crusading mobs attacked and killed thousands of Jews. These atrocities left a lasting legacy of trauma and tension between Jewish and Christian communities. The military orders, such as the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitaller, and the Teutonic Knights, played a crucial role in the Crusades. These orders combined monastic and military elements, dedicating themselves to the defense of the Holy Land and the protection of Christian pilgrims. The Knights Templar, founded in 1119, became one of the most powerful and wealthy military orders, with vast holdings across Europe and the Levant. Their distinctive white mantles adorned with a red cross became a symbol of the crusading spirit. The Hospitallers, initially established to provide care for sick and injured pilgrims, evolved into a formidable military force. The Teutonic Knights, primarily active in the Baltic region, played a key role in the Northern Crusades, aimed at converting pagan populations in Eastern Europe. The legacy of the Crusades is complex and multifaceted. On the one hand, the Crusades facilitated cultural and technological exchanges between the Christian and Muslim worlds. Crusaders brought back knowledge of medicine, mathematics, and philosophy from the Islamic world, contributing to the intellectual revival of the European Renaissance. The Crusades also stimulated trade and the growth of cities, as merchants and adventurers sought to capitalize on the new connections between the East and West. On the other hand, the Crusades were marked by significant violence and atrocities. The Crusaders' zeal often led to the persecution and massacre of Jews, Muslims, and even fellow Christians who were deemed heretical or insufficiently devout. The legacy of the Crusades includes deep-seated animosities and historical grievances that continue to influence relations between the Christian and Muslim worlds. The Crusades also had profound effects on the political landscape of Europe. The mobilization of large armies required extensive resources and coordination, leading to the centralization of power in the hands of monarchs and the Church. The experience of crusading fostered a sense of shared identity and purpose among the European nobility, contributing to the development of a more cohesive European identity. As we conclude this second part of our exploration of the Crusades, we see how these holy wars were driven by a complex interplay of religious fervor, political ambition, and personal motivations. The Crusades were not a monolithic series of events, but a dynamic and evolving conflict that shaped the course of medieval history. In the next part, we will delve deeper into the key figures and pivotal moments that define this era. Another significant figure in the later Crusades was Frederick II, Holy Roman Emperor. Known for his diplomatic acumen and intellectual pursuits, Frederick II embarked on the Sixth Crusade in 1228. Unlike previous crusades, Frederick's approach was largely diplomatic. Through negotiations with the Muslim Sultan Al-Kamil, Frederick secured the peaceful handover of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Nazareth to Christian control without significant bloodshed. This diplomatic success, however, was met with mixed reactions in Europe, as some viewed his methods as unorthodox, and his excommunication by Pope Gregory IX further complicated his legacy. The Seventh Crusade, led by King Louis IX of France, commenced in 1248. Louis, later canonized as Saint Louis, was driven by deep religious conviction and a desire to reclaim the Holy Land. The campaign, however, faced significant challenges and ultimately ended in failure. Louis's forces were defeated in Egypt, and he was captured by the Muslim forces of the Ayyubid Sultanate. Despite this setback, Louis remained undeterred and later launched the Eighth Crusade in 1270, which also ended unsuccessfully with his death in Tunis. Louis IX's devout leadership and determination left a lasting impression, highlighting the persistent, albeit increasingly futile, efforts of the later Crusades. Another notable aspect of the Crusades was the establishment and influence of the military orders. The Knights Templar, founded by Hugh de Payens in 1119, played a crucial role in protecting Christian pilgrims and defending the Crusader states. The Templars developed a formidable reputation for their martial prowess and strict code of conduct. Over time, they amassed significant wealth and land holdings, becoming a powerful and influential order within Christendom. Their distinctive white mantles adorned with a red cross became a symbol of the crusading spirit. The Knights Hospitaller, initially established to provide care for sick and injured pilgrims, evolved into a military order known as the Order of St. John. They played a key role in the defense of the Kingdom of Jerusalem and other Crusader territories. The Hospitallers established fortresses and hospitals throughout the Holy Land, demonstrating their dual commitment to both martial and medical endeavors. After the fall of the Crusader states, the Hospitallers relocated to Rhodes and later to Malta, continuing their legacy as a military and charitable order. The Teutonic Knights, another influential military order, focused their efforts primarily in the Baltic region. Founded during the Third Crusade, the Teutonic Knights initially aimed to aid German crusaders in the Holy Land. However, their mission shifted to the conversion and conquest of pagan populations in Eastern Europe. The Teutonic Knights played a significant role in the Northern Crusades, establishing a powerful state in Prussia and contributing to the Christianization and Germanization of the Baltic region. The crusading movement also extended beyond the Holy Land and the Levant, influencing conflicts in Europe and beyond. The Reconquista in Spain, a series of campaigns to reclaim Iberian territories from Muslim rule, was deeply intertwined with the crusading spirit. Spanish and Portuguese monarchs sought papal blessings for their campaigns, framing their efforts as part of the broader struggle against Islam. The fall of Granada in 1492, which marked the end of Muslim rule in Spain, was celebrated as a crusading victory. The Baltic Crusades, often referred to as the Northern Crusades, were aimed at converting the pagan tribes of the Baltic region to Christianity. These campaigns, led primarily by the Teutonic Knights, were characterized by brutal warfare and the establishment of Christian dominion over the region. The Baltic Crusades resulted in the consolidation of Christian states and the integration of the Baltic region into the European cultural and religious sphere. The impact of the Crusades on the Islamic world was profound. The Muslim response to the Crusades varied, with some leaders seeking to repel the invaders through military means, while others pursued diplomatic solutions. The Crusades fostered a sense of unity and religious fervor among Muslims, contributing to the consolidation of Islamic states and the development of jihad as a central concept in Islamic thought. The legacy of the Crusades in the Muslim world includes a complex mix of resistance, adaptation, and cultural exchange. The Crusades also left an indelible mark on Christian theology and thought. The concept of holy war, initially developed during the Crusades, influenced later Christian military endeavors and the development of just war theory. The idea of pilgrimage as a form of religious devotion was reinforced, with the Crusades seen as an extension of the pilgrimage tradition. The theological justification for the Crusades, based on the idea of fighting for the faith and reclaiming holy sites, resonated throughout medieval Christendom. The cultural exchanges facilitated by the Crusades had lasting effects on both the Christian and Muslim worlds. Crusaders encountered advanced Islamic medicine, science, and philosophy, bringing back knowledge that contributed to the intellectual revival of the European Renaissance. The introduction of new agricultural techniques, trade goods, and architectural styles enriched European society. Conversely, the Islamic world was exposed to Western military tactics, fortification techniques, and aspects of European culture. The legacy of the Crusades is complex and multifaceted. While they were driven by religious fervor and a desire for conquest, the Crusades also facilitated significant cultural and technological exchanges between the Christian and Muslim worlds. The brutal violence and persecution that accompanied the Crusades left deep scars and historical grievances that continue to influence relations between the Christian and Muslim worlds to this day. As we continue to reflect on the Crusades, it is essential to recognize the diversity of experiences and perspectives that shaped this period. The Crusades were not a monolithic series of events, but a dynamic and evolving conflict that involved a wide range of actors, motivations, and outcomes. Understanding the Crusades in their full complexity requires examining the religious, political, and cultural contexts that drove these momentous events. The Crusades profoundly altered the geopolitical landscape of the medieval world. The establishment of Crusader states in the Levant, though ultimately short-lived, introduced European political and military structures to the region. These states, such as the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Tripoli, and the Principality of Antioch, became focal points of Christian-Muslim interaction. The constant need to defend these territories against Muslim reconquest efforts led to ongoing military campaigns and fortified the European presence in the Near East for nearly 2 centuries. The Crusades also stimulated economic growth and transformation within Europe. The need to supply and finance crusading expeditions spurred developments in banking, trade, and commerce. Italian city-states like Venice, Genoa, and Pisa benefited immensely by providing maritime transport and financial services to crusaders. These cities expanded their trade networks, establishing profitable connections with the Byzantine Empire, the Muslim world, and beyond. The influx of Eastern goods, such as spices, silk, and precious metals, into Europe fueled a burgeoning market economy and contributed to the rise of a merchant class. In addition to economic changes, the Crusades left a significant mark on European culture and society. The interaction between Christian and Muslim civilizations facilitated the transfer of knowledge, leading to the European rediscovery of classical Greek and Roman texts preserved by Muslim scholars. This intellectual exchange played a crucial role in the development of scholasticism and the eventual emergence of the Renaissance. Universities and centers of learning in Europe began to incorporate ideas from Islamic philosophy, medicine, astronomy, and mathematics, enriching the intellectual landscape of the Middle Ages. The Crusades also had a profound impact on the concept of chivalry and knighthood. The idea of the knight as a warrior of Christ, defending the faith through martial prowess, became deeply ingrained in the European imagination. The values of chivalry, courage, honor, piety, and loyalty were romanticized and idealized through the literature of the time, such as the chansons de geste and Arthurian legends. These cultural narratives reinforced the notion of the knightly crusader and shaped the social identity of the European nobility. However, the Crusades also had darker and more destructive consequences. The violence and brutality inflicted upon Muslim, Jewish, and even Christian populations during the campaigns left a legacy of bitterness and mistrust. Massacres, forced conversions, and the pillaging of cities were not uncommon, and the memory of these atrocities has echoed through the centuries. The Crusades exacerbated religious tensions and contributed to a climate of intolerance and conflict that has occasionally resurfaced throughout history. The experience of the Crusades also had a significant psychological impact on the participants. For many crusaders, the journey to the Holy Land was fraught with hardship, disease, and death. The physical and emotional toll of the crusading expeditions left deep scars, and the disillusionment of failed campaigns often led to a questioning of faith and purpose. Yet, for others, the experience reinforced their religious convictions and sense of divine mission, further entrenching the idea of holy war within the Christian tradition. As the crusading fervor waned in the late medieval period, the focus of European expansion shifted to new horizons. The spirit of exploration and conquest that characterized the Crusades found new expression in the Age of Discovery. European explorers, driven by a combination of religious zeal, economic ambition, and a desire for knowledge, embarked on voyages that led to the discovery of the Americas, the circumnavigation of Africa, and the establishment of trade routes to Asia. The legacy of the Crusades, with its blend of militant piety and commercial enterprise, can be seen as a precursor to these later explorations and expansions. The Crusades also had a lasting impact on the relationship between the eastern and western branches of Christianity. The sack of Constantinople in 1204 by the Fourth Crusade, a tragic and devastating event, deepened the schism between the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. The betrayal and destruction wrought by fellow Christians left a profound sense of betrayal and division that hindered efforts at reconciliation for centuries. The legacy of this event is still felt today in the ongoing efforts to bridge the divide between the two traditions. In the Muslim world, the memory of the Crusades has been shaped by a mixture of resistance and adaptation. The Crusades galvanized Muslim unity and fostered a sense of collective identity in the face of external threats. Figures like Saladin became legendary heroes, embodying the ideals of leadership, piety, and justice. The concept of jihad as a defensive struggle against invaders was reinforced and remains a significant aspect of Islamic thought. The cultural and intellectual exchanges during the Crusades also enriched Islamic civilization as Muslim scholars and leaders interacted with their Christian counterparts. The historiography of the Crusades has evolved over time, reflecting changing perspectives and interpretations. Early accounts, written by participants and contemporaries, often portrayed the Crusades in heroic and triumphalist terms. Later historians, influenced by Enlightenment values and critical scholarship, began to question the motives and outcomes of the Crusades, highlighting their complexity and the human cost involved. In recent decades, scholars have increasingly emphasized the need to view the Crusades from multiple perspectives, recognizing the diverse experiences and voices of all those affected by these conflicts. In conclusion, the Crusades were a multifaceted and transformative series of events that shaped the medieval world and left a lasting legacy on global history. Driven by a combination of religious fervor, political ambition, and economic interests, the Crusades facilitated cultural exchanges, economic development, and intellectual growth, while also causing immense suffering and deepening religious divisions. Understanding the Crusades in all their complexity requires a nuanced appreciation of the motivations, experiences, and impacts of this pivotal era. Key figures of the Crusades. Pope Urban II. Pope Urban II was the catalyst for the First Crusade, delivering a powerful speech at the Council of Clermont in 1095 that called Christians to take up arms and reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control. His rallying cry, Deus Vult, God wills it, inspired thousands to join the crusade. Urban's vision was not only to free the Holy Land but also to unite the Christian world under the papacy's leadership, enhancing the Church's spiritual and political authority. Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, was a formidable leader who played a central role in the Muslim response to the Crusades. Born in 1137, Saladin united the Muslim territories and recaptured Jerusalem in 1187 after the decisive Battle of Hattin. His leadership, characterized by chivalry and strategic brilliance, earned him respect from both his allies and enemies. Saladin's recapture of Jerusalem was a significant turning point in the Crusades, leading to the launch of the Third Crusade by European monarchs. Richard the Lionheart, King of England, was one of the most prominent leaders of the Third Crusade. Known for his bravery and military prowess, Richard led the Crusader forces to several victories against Saladin, including the capture of Acre and the Battle of Arsuf. Despite his efforts, Richard was unable to recapture Jerusalem, but his negotiations with Saladin resulted in a truce that allowed Christian pilgrims access to the Holy City. Richard's legacy as a chivalric and determined warrior endures in both history and legend. Frederick II, Holy Roman Emperor, embarked on the Sixth Crusade in 1228, employing diplomacy rather than military might to achieve his goals. Through negotiations with Sultan Al-Kamil, Frederick secured the peaceful transfer of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Nazareth to Christian control. This diplomatic success, however, was controversial and received mixed reactions in Europe. Frederick's excommunication by Pope Gregory IX further complicated his legacy, but his approach demonstrated an alternative method of pursuing crusading objectives. Louis IX, King Louis IX of France, later canonized as Saint Louis, led both the Seventh and Eighth Crusades. Deeply devout and driven by religious conviction, Louis sought to reclaim the Holy Land for Christendom. His first campaign ended in failure with his capture in Egypt, but he remained undeterred and launched another crusade in 1270, which also ended unsuccessfully with his death in Tunis. Louis IX's dedication and piety made him a revered figure in both French and crusading history. Hugh de Payens was the founder and first Grand Master of the Knights Templar, a military order established in 1119 to protect Christian pilgrims and defend the Crusader states. The Templars became one of the most powerful and wealthy military orders, known for their distinctive white mantles with a red cross. Hugh de Payens' leadership helped establish the order's reputation for discipline, bravery, and dedication to the crusading cause. Bohemond of Taranto was a key leader of the First Crusade, known for his strategic acumen and martial prowess. As a Norman prince, Bohemond played a crucial role in several battles, including the capture of Antioch. His ambition and leadership were instrumental in the early successes of the Crusader forces. Bohemond's efforts established him as a prominent figure in the history of the Crusades and the expansion of Norman influence in the eastern Mediterranean. Raymond IV of Toulouse also known as Raymond of St. Gilles, was one of the principal leaders of the First Crusade. A seasoned warrior and devout Christian, Raymond led his forces with determination and played a significant role in key battles, including the Siege of Jerusalem. His leadership and contributions to the Crusader cause earned him a lasting place in the annals of crusading history. Baldwin IV of Jerusalem. Baldwin IV, known as the Leper King, ruled the Kingdom of Jerusalem during a critical period of the Crusades. Despite suffering from leprosy, Baldwin IV demonstrated remarkable leadership and courage, successfully defending his kingdom against Muslim forces. His reign saw significant battles, including the Battle of Montgessard, where he achieved a decisive victory against Saladin. Baldwin IV's resilience and strategic acumen made him a revered and inspirational figure in the history of the Crusades. Godfrey of Bouillon. Godfrey of Bouillon was one of the most prominent leaders of the First Crusade and became the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. A skilled and pious warrior, Godfrey played a key role in the capture of Jerusalem in 1099. He refused to be crowned king, instead taking the title of Defender of the Holy Sepulchre. Godfrey's leadership and commitment to the crusading cause solidified his place as a legendary figure in Crusader history. Bernard of Clairvaux. Bernard of Clairvaux, a French abbot and influential theologian, was a key figure in promoting the Second Crusade. His eloquent preaching and persuasive writings inspired many to take up the cross and join the crusading effort. Bernard's support and endorsement of the Knights Templar further strengthened the order's influence and legitimacy. His role in the Crusades highlights the intersection of religious fervor and military ambition in medieval Christendom. Peter the Hermit. Peter the Hermit was a charismatic preacher and one of the leaders of the People's Crusade, a precursor to the First Crusade. Born around 1050, Peter's impassioned sermons and fervent calls for Christians to liberate Jerusalem inspired thousands of peasants, townsfolk, and lesser knights to take up arms. Despite lacking formal military training and organization, Peter's followers embarked on an arduous journey to the Holy Land. The People's Crusade ended disastrously, with most of the Crusaders perishing or being captured by Muslim forces. Nevertheless, Peter the Hermit's role in mobilizing ordinary Christians highlighted the widespread religious fervor and desire to participate in the crusading movement. Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine was one of the most powerful and influential women of the medieval period. As the Queen Consort of France, she accompanied her husband, King Louis VII, on the Second Crusade. Eleanor's presence on the crusade brought a unique dimension to the campaign, highlighting the involvement of noble women in these military endeavors. Although the Second Crusade was ultimately unsuccessful, Eleanor's experiences and observations during the journey influenced her later political actions and her support for subsequent crusading efforts. Her legacy includes her patronage of the arts and her role in shaping the political landscape of medieval Europe. Philip II of France. Philip II, also known as Philip Augustus, was a key leader of the Third Crusade. As the King of France, Philip joined forces with Richard the Lionheart of England and Frederick I Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire to launch a concerted effort to reclaim Jerusalem. Despite initial successes, including the capture of Acre, Philip's relationship with Richard was strained, leading him to return to France early. Philip's participation in the Third Crusade underscored the complex interplay of cooperation and rivalry among European monarchs during the Crusading Campaigns. Conrad III of Germany. Conrad III, the first king of Germany from the Hohenstaufen dynasty, was a prominent leader of the Second Crusade. He joined forces with King Louis VII of France in response to the fall of the county of Edessa to Muslim forces. Conrad's crusading efforts were hampered by logistical challenges and military setbacks, including a disastrous defeat in Anatolia. Despite these difficulties, Conrad's involvement in the Second Crusade exemplified the commitment of European rulers to the crusading cause and the formidable obstacles they faced in their campaigns. Raymond of Poitiers. Raymond of Poitiers was the Prince of Antioch and a significant figure in the Crusader states. He married Constance of Antioch and became a prominent leader in the defense of the principality against Muslim forces. Raymond's rule was marked by alliances and conflicts with neighboring Muslim and Christian states, reflecting the complex political dynamics of the region. His efforts to maintain the stability and security of Antioch contributed to the broader crusading efforts in the Levant. Bohemond VI. Bohemond VI was the Prince of Antioch and Count of Tripoli during the later stages of the Crusades. He played a key role in the politics and military campaigns of the Crusader states, navigating alliances and conflicts with Muslim leaders and other Crusader lords. Bohemond VI's leadership highlighted the ongoing challenges faced by the Crusader states in maintaining their territories and influence in the region. Godfrey of Bouillon. Godfrey of Bouillon was one of the most prominent leaders of the First Crusade and became the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. A skilled and pious warrior, Godfrey played a key role in the capture of Jerusalem in 1099. He refused to be crowned king, instead taking the title of Defender of the Holy Sepulchre. Godfrey's leadership and commitment to the crusading cause solidified his place as a legendary figure in Crusader history. Baldwin IV of Jerusalem. Baldwin IV, known as the Leper King, ruled the Kingdom of Jerusalem during a critical period of the Crusades. Despite suffering from leprosy, Baldwin IV demonstrated remarkable leadership and courage, successfully defending his kingdom against Muslim forces. His reign saw significant battles, including the Battle of Montgessard, where he achieved a decisive victory against Saladin. Baldwin IV's resilience and strategic acumen made him a revered and inspirational figure in the history of the Crusades. Nur ad-Din. Nur ad-Din, a prominent Muslim leader and predecessor of Saladin, played a crucial role in the defense of Muslim territories against the Crusaders. As the ruler of Syria, Nur ad-Din sought to unify the Muslim states and resist the encroaching Crusader forces. His military and political efforts laid the groundwork for Saladin's eventual successes and the recapture of Jerusalem. Nur ad-Din's legacy includes his contributions to the consolidation of Muslim power and the defense of Islamic lands during the Crusades. Kilij Arslan. Kilij Arslan, the Sultan of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, was a formidable opponent of the Crusaders during the First Crusade. He successfully ambushed and defeated the People's Crusade at the Battle of Civitate, showcasing his strategic prowess. Kilij Arslan's subsequent engagements with the main Crusader forces highlighted the challenges faced by the Crusaders as they advanced through Anatolia. Despite ultimately being defeated, Kilij Arslan's resistance exemplified the determined opposition of Muslim leaders to the Crusader incursions. These individuals, along with many others, played pivotal roles in shaping the course of the Crusades. Their decisions, leadership, and actions had profound impacts on the outcomes of the various crusading campaigns and the broader historical narrative of this tumultuous period. The legacy of the Crusades is complex and multifaceted, reflecting the diverse motivations, experiences, and consequences of these epic conflicts.